We have officially hit the looting stage of Canada's democracy. The Canadian Liberal government of Canada has given a total of $22 billion to the Ukraine. And yesterday, photos came out from a couple of days ago. Chrystia Freeland, who, by the way, is no longer a cabinet member in the Liberal Party, sitting down with one of Zelensky's right-hand men who was just arrested for siphoning out hundreds of millions of dollars worth of foreign aid in the energy sector. It is now approximated that all experts agree between 15 and 30% of all aid, of which Canada has donated 22 billion taxpayer dollars to Ukraine. The Liberals have told us that we need to send $22 billion to the Ukraine. Between 15 and 30% of that money has been stolen, including huge hundreds of millions of dollars from Ukraine's energy sector, which is specifically where we donated and where Chrystia Freeland was in the Ukraine to discuss about. Is Canada going to get any sort of forensic accounting, any knowledge of exactly how much of our $22 billion donation has been paid? It's quite odd when you look into it, whether it be Freeland, whether it be Carney, who through Brookfield has many assets located in the Ukraine, as do BlackRock, as do many large organizations that Carney has ties to. Are we, the Canadian people, going to receive some sort of forensic accounting, some sort of accounting for how our $22 billion have been spent? This is at the same time as we have a 22% youth male unemployment rate, probably real world more like a 10% total unemployment rate, one of the weakest economies in the G7, yet we continue to shovel money into the Ukraine, where we now know definitively hundreds of millions, billions of dollars are being stolen. Does the Canadian taxpayer get any accounting? They're running like rats off the Titanic in the Liberal Party of Canada. Melanie Joly, after Stellantis left the country, leaving 3,000 jobs outside of Canada, Joly now says she did not read the $15 billion contract, so Joly is likely to leave the cabinet. Stephen Guilbeault, who was rumored, no investigation, of course, like there's never any investigation into these Liberal crooks. Rumors that he siphoned off up to $254 million taxpayer dollars into his so-called green initiatives through Trudeau's green slush fund, which was notoriously corrupt. Mark Carney overseeing the Canadian economy, shedding $85 billion in value since he was inaugurated as our Prime Minister. 2 straight quarters of negative GDP growth. We're officially in a recession in Canada. Yet Brookfield Asset Management, which has many assets in the Ukraine along with BlackRock, look at all the big banks that have these massive assets in BlackRock, Brookfield Asset Management over in the Ukraine. Carney's personal assets are up something like 45%. So while Canada's economy has stagnated massively since Carney was elected, his own personal fortunes are up substantially. He lied during the run-up to the election, saying all he owned was real estate and cash. We now know he owns over 600 companies, over 90% of which are located in the United States of America. And but again, nothing. Where is the oversight committee? Where in Canada, the Conflict of Interest Act? We are just seeing it blatantly broken on a regular basis now in this country. And where is enforcement? Where is Canadian enforcement on any of these laws? The Conflict of Interest Act explicitly states in Canada that a public office holder may not use their office to promote companies that they have a private interest in. It's stated explicitly. But what do we see? Mark Carney on a near daily basis now going out, getting on the dais and speaking about companies that we know definitively he has a private interest in, like GE Hitachi. He'll get out there on the dais in his role as Prime Minister of Canada and speak about companies that he has a private interest in. Chrystia Freeland oversaw $1 billion worth of contracts go to the Chinese to build 3 ferries for BC. And then immediately after that, she resigns. Now she's in the Ukraine. Stephen Guilbeault, rumors of him siphoning off hundreds of millions of dollars The lunatic who scaled the CN Tower 15 years ago in order to save the planet. I kid you not, you can look it up. These are the types of people we have in the cabinet in Canada, people who scale the CN Tower to save the planet. Hundreds of millions siphoned off, not a peep. Like I said, all the rats are jumping off the Titanic. In Canada, if we do live in a legitimate democracy, where are the bodies that oversee these people? Because the amount of just out in the open corruption is unparalleled in Canadian history. They're doing it right in front of our eyes. Does the Canadian taxpayer, who is being forced to send tens of billions of dollars to one of the most corrupt countries in the world, get any accounting of how much of this money is actually winding up in the pocket of Freeland, Carney, their personal assets, their personal family friends? Carney and Freeland already have a familial relation between the two of them. Godfather. There's so much incestuous robbery of the Canadian people. Robbery is the right way to put it. And at the same time as they loot the coffers of the Canadian people, they continue to allow 1.5 million people into the year country. So they steal our money, and then they allow millions of people in the country when we already have a housing crisis. Can somebody please explain to me the math on allowing 1.5 million people in the country in 2025 when we already have a housing crisis and people can't afford to live? We're building 200,000 houses. We have 1.5 million new people coming into the country. By my math, that's a 1.3 million person surplus. So how exactly is that going to help the housing crisis that we have, Mark Carney? But of course, they're not ultimately concerned with that. What they're ultimately concerned with is getting as much money out of the system as possible. They know the deficit that they've ran up. They know that $78 billion is going to require massive cuts in the very near future. But before we get to that, they figure, let's loot the coffers for as much as we absolutely can. If you were to get a forensic audit on that $22 billion worth of Canadian taxpayer money that have gone to the Ukraine, it would be shocking at the amount that's been siphoned off. And what exactly is Freeland doing in the Ukraine? Is she there in official capacity? Why is she sitting next to a right-hand man of Zelensky's, who is a known criminal? This man is a known criminal, thrown away because they stole hundreds of millions of dollars in the energy sector, and a former senior Canadian Liberal Parliament executive is there just sitting beside him. Canadians demand answers, and Canadians demand answers now. It's an embarrassment. Please like, share, subscribe, join, donate, grab some gear. Really appreciate everybody who supports. I'm going to keep on this because the Canadian people are just getting absolutely looted by their government right now.